Nancy, thank you so much for agreeing to the interview today. The McLaine family has lived in Toolangi for 6 generations, a long time. Can you tell us about them coming there and what actually brought them to Toolangi and where they settled?
Well, my grandfather had a gold mine in Steele's Creek, and when that ran out, he went to a place in the Toolangi bush called Siberia, doing paling splitting. They had a paling shack there that they lived in for a few years until he shifted down to Toolangi and built a house there. Then he became the local builder. He built quite a few places around Toolangi, including C.J. Dennis's house.
The school.
And Alex Hill's place. A few others that I can't think of.
The Toolangi Primary School?
He might have had a hand in that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the McLaine name with the Biggs, and there were 3 or 4 families involved with building the school.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
What about the guest house?
I did a lot of work on the guest house, yes.
So where they moved to, where he settled in Toolangi, was opposite the hall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not on our house, though. We're directly up the...
Behind, in front. Can you give us some idea from the stories that your parents and grandparents would have told you, Cliff, of what it was like back in their day in the Toolangi of the 1890s and 1930s? And I'll ask you what stories you've picked up from there as well, Naz. So, Cliff, what stories did your parents tell you?
Oh, well, yeah, it was all bullock wagons then, bullock teams, and that was before the horses sort of came into vogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was a lot of horse-drawn vehicles, buggies and drays, and I remember when they put the road through beside the school, which they called Hogan's Road, they did that all with horses and scoops.
And was that done by the local community or was it done by the council?
I think it was Country Roads Board.
Ah. So, when your grandparents settled up there, did your grandparents establish the guest house?
No, my mother.
Right.
Yeah, she got that going.
Wow.
She was a real goer.
When did the guest houses take off in Toolangi?
I didn't know, Cliff.
Would it be the 20s or after the First World War?
Oh, yeah, in the 20s and 30s. There was Heathlands, the post office, our place, Hillcrest, and the hotel.
Toolangi House.
Mm.
Right. And Nance, can you remember stories that Daisy told you and the family told you of what it was like when they were there first?
She didn't talk too much about
The early days.
No, she was more inclined to tell, this sounds funny, to put her arms around me and tell me how much she loved me.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's all. Because she didn't have a daughter. She had 3 boys.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, but it made a bit of tension between the other 2 girls.
Mm.
But I can't think of anything else but her loving ways towards me.
Yeah. And Cliff, what was it like growing up in Toolangi in the 20s and 30s and the early... You might remember a lot of the 20s because you were born in 26. You would have been, by 1930, you would have just been raising 4. The 20s and the 30s and early parts of World War II. What can you remember? Obviously, it was the Depression.
Yeah, well, early 30s, the bullock teams had just disappeared, and the horses came along. There was remnants of the old bullock teams all over the place, including the ones they let go in the bush.
They did.
Yeah, they turned them loose in the bush.
A bit like the camels in the outback.
Yes, that's true.
The people that worked in the bush were a bit wary of them because some of the bulls were a bit dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah.
And so they went over to horses. How did the mills react to the Depression? What happened?
To the Depression?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to close down. My dad was out of work.
And then, of course, we had the 39 fires.
Yes, that was a bad one.
You were down in Brunswick.
Yes, I was away on school holidays down at my auntie's in Brunswick.
Thank God for that. Thank God for that.
When I came home, everything was black.
Can you tell us what it was like growing up then? Transport, games, the sports that you played, the friends that you played with, the neighbours, the primary school, and then going on to secondary school. Tell us a little bit about that.
I didn't go to secondary school.
Yeah.
I finished at grade 8 in Toolangi.
You're right. And I think Jeff was saying if people went on, if you were lucky, you got a scholarship to go and study downtown, but you had to have a relative to live with. It was pretty tough.
Yeah, my older brother went to
Swinburne.
Swinburne.
Where did he go?
He went to Swinburne.
Swinburne.
Yeah, but he only stayed there for one term. He came home and wouldn't go back.
They were bush boys.
Yeah, and that's understandable. What about sports that you played as a boy and memories of the school?
And
No, we didn't play much sport then.
Did you play cricket?
No, not. Oh well, we did play cricket, of course, at school.
Yeah.
But the game that I remember most was tin hockey.
Tin hockey?
Tin
kick hockey.
Oh, kick hockey.
tin hockey. We used to find a stick in the bush with a knob on the end and belt a tin around.
So
That was at school, and one day the teacher was having a bit of a game with us, and he got hit in the shin with the tin. And he said, "That's enough. That game's finished."
And tell us a little bit about your experience at the school. What do you remember about the school? What things stand out that were good?
Don't talk about that one.
That was the teacher I didn't like.
Oh, that's funny because I asked Jeff Biggs, who were your favourite teachers? And he looked at me and he said, none of them.
No, this one was nearly go quick with a nervous breakdown.
Some of them
It
were
was so bad.
Yeah. Nancy, you came up from Box Hill. Can you tell us a bit about meeting Cliff, and then marrying and moving to Toolangi and leading to your first impression of living up there? So,
Well, you know that I didn't like it. I missed the electricity. I sort of couldn't get used to lighting tilly lamps, and I had candles. I'd like them, but ask me to put kerosene in anything. What else?
I don't know how it went off.
Okay, just cut for a second.
I've got it turned off.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. It wasn't quite pulled.
not a worry.
Can we start again?
Yes.
Okay. So, Nance, could you tell us about meeting Cliff and actually going up to Toolangi?
Oh, well, we just went to the dance every Saturday night at the Vauxhall Town Hall. He was very slow at asking me to dance because he was too shy. But he eventually made it and just went on from there, and one smile was enough because he was such an infectious grin, which
That's
is still
wonderful.
and I just followed along, not knowing what I was going to, but it turned out all right. And I made lots of friends in Toolangi.
And he invited you up to meet his parents.
Yes.
And how did you find the place? What were your first impressions?
Oh, the lights, no street lights, nothing. I used to walk to the dances with the head like this to get a bit of light from the sky. You know, that's the only light from the stars or whatever, on a pitch black night. But I had to hang on, I didn't know where I was going.
And originally, when you went up, the agreement was you were going to go and live there only for a couple of years.
Yeah, till he got the farm going with his brother.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's right.
And?
Oh, well, I wouldn't have left Cliff because he was
No.
my husband then. Although when we got back from our honeymoon, I didn't want to come. I was wanted to stay with Mum. Mum said, "You've got to go home. It's your husband. You've got to go with him."
So you went up to a very different lifestyle.
Oh.
Suddenly, no electricity,
And I was
no public transport, no made roads,
just living the same life
no
as
shops,
post office.
a post office. Nancy, when you first came up to Toolangi, you gradually got involved in the local community.
Yes, Cliff was playing cricket at that stage, and I used to go down for the afternoon tea to the cricket, and I met all the ladies, and they just kept as though I'd been there all my life. Because they're all gone, and didn't know one of them left, but they accepted that Cliff had gone to town to find a wife.
So, Cliff, can you tell us a bit about your mother and father? Your grandfather came to Toolangi originally. Can you tell us a bit about your mother and father and wider family and how they were involved in the community?
Dad was a cricketer, and yes, he used to go to cricket every Saturday, and he usually brought Alex Sewell home for dinner Saturday night. Yes, and Mum got the guest house going, and we had guests for 10 or 12 years, and then she used to take in boarders like the school teacher, forestry workers, and till it finally closed down. What else?
When did the guest house close?
I really can't remember.
Pardon?
When did the guest house close? Can you remember?
Yes, it's probably in, probably after, I don't know, I've sort of had a bit of a flash then.
1950s?
Yeah, it would be around about, we were
50s
married
or
in
60s, yeah.
60s. We were married in 48, so we were making a flat for us to live in 1948.
at the guest house.
So it was closed then.
So we closed. And when we got engaged, it was still going because that was a year early.
Yeah.
And we had that big multi-purpose room.
Right. But your mother kept it going right up until the 60s.
She had occasional like
People
school
stay.
teachers and as Cliff said, and the people who wanted work up here, but they had no house, so they boarded, and Grandma boarded them.
And you had two brothers. They stayed in Toolangi.
No, my brother joined the Navy and he went to live in Burwood. He built a house down there. He was a builder also.
Right.
And the other brother's still there. He never left Toolangi.
Oh, lovely. So, you've both been very involved in the local tennis club and building the community tennis court, which it's great news that they're rebuilding it and redoing it and getting it going again. Can you tell us about getting involved in that? I think I recall Nancy mentioned when you stopped playing cricket, you're about 28.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so tell us a bit about the tennis club. And
Well, it was sorry.
yeah, well, Nancy couldn't play cricket, of course, in those days. So we got the tennis going so we both could play. And we started down at Heathlands on a single court. And then the club got big enough for us to build a couple of courts behind the hall.
Raising funds with it.
And Nancy, can you tell us a bit about raising those funds to build the tennis court?
Yes, we used to have, if there was a meeting, a community meeting in the hall, we used to make cakes and little odds and ends to sell, to make money, to pay for the courts, and because they were undercover courts then, so you had to buy quite a bit of stuff, to be able to play on.
And it was built, I remember when you were talking about it, you said it was, you got wheelbarrows and shovels and
Yes.
you all did it by hand.
Yes, we had to.
Men and women all
Yeah.
out there helping children.
We all had to bring our tools.
Yeah.
And then we had to wheel the surface soil away to flatten it out and get the level right. Using a plumb level also.
Yeah,
So 28, that must have been,
Spirit
you
level.
started about 1956. When were they up and going?
oh,
Oh, 56. Oh yes, well Jennifer would have been 52. 5 years old. Yeah, that sounds right.
So it took a year or two to get them built?
oh yes. Oh, I think it took a year or two to get it going.
And we used to play down at Heathlands down at, and that's another guest house. And we used
And
to
could
play.
you explain where Heathlands was?
Yes, you can.
Sorry?
Heathlands.
Where?
Heathlands.
Yeah. When was it?
I think it's still there.
Yeah.
I think. It's about halfway between the school and Spraggs Road.
On
Right.
the north side.
Yeah.
So, that was a wonderful community effort, getting the tennis courts going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh well, we had strong men then, and
And then in those days, you had your meetings in the little community hall that had been the old school building.
well,
Yeah.
we used to dance in that little hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did the hall get built?
Well, the switch-on ball was you got on that card.
That's at the hall, at the
Yeah.
CJ Dennis Hall.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where we had the ball.
Right.
So
So
it
that
would have been
early 60s.
a couple of years before that.
Right. So
Yeah,
the early part of the
least.
60s.
I think you mentioned the other day that I had taught how to make pavlovas.
Yes.
Yeah. And I had it in my kitchen.
And that was part of the fundraising?
But yeah, that's what it was for.
That was
They all bought their eggs and I had it all the other.
You were both involved very much in the social side of the community,
Yes.
the school, organising the dances and celebrations. Can you tell us a bit about that? Cliff, first, yeah? The social side. What do you remember most about the social side of Toolangi?
Oh,
well, probably the dances.
Yeah,
and all the meetings, the
school committee.
meetings.
Yes. All the what?
All the meetings were held.
Oh,
there.
the meetings, yes. Plenty of meetings.
And celebrations.
Yes.
Yes.
You mentioned the switching on
Yeah.
ball, which
Yeah.
was when electricity first
Came
came
through. Yes.
Yeah.
in 1963.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I know there was a person down at Castella, and he was quite helpful with the electricity, and that's Cliff Russell.
Mm.
Sorry, I don't want to get the wrong person's name.
Cliff Postlethwaite. No.
It's Cliff Boswell.
Boswell.
Was the athlete in Castella. He was very helpful with pushing it through for us. I don't know what the connection there was though. Do you?
He was a counsellor for a while.
Yeah, so it helped us a bit knowing him, and he came in and pushed them through the council so that we could get started.
Hmm.
And we did all sorts of things to get it going. Yeah. We were so anxious because, I mean, I ended up with sunburn everywhere, but 50 years of tennis was worth it. We played in the same team.
That's wonderful.
We partnered each other. And we spent nearly all our days together.
And when there was a tennis tournament, when there was tennis going on the weekend, your daughter Cheryl mentioned there would be Cliff going down early. What did you do, Cliff?
I used to water the courts and put the nets up and get everything ready for the afternoon on Saturday
No
morning.
one else offered.
And
Well,
how many years did you do that for?
till it came to Toolangi, till Toolangi stopped.
At least 30.
That's one.
Mm.
Now, you've both had a really big involvement in employment, a wide range of employment in Toolangi, like the guest house, like the mills, the strawberry growing, the potato growing, the strawberry co-op, the school, the bulldozing. I'd like each of you to tell a little bit about your employment. Would you talk about what you did when you came up and how the different employment that you had?
Mainly working on the farm, getting the crops growing and helping pick up potatoes. Because I had the kids in the first 5 years, 2 little girls, and they used to just put themselves where we could see them, and they'd be hopping over the rows of potatoes in there, and you'd see these little blonde heads going over the pigs, because theirs was a flax farm, and I had to keep an eye on the girls. And then they just got old enough to be able to do some housework in my house, have the dinners all ready, because then I started teaching down at Toolangi School.
How long were you at Toolangi School?
Oh, I can't quite remember because I was very sick with this face and I had to leave because you couldn't get leave in those days.
Mm.
If you had an illness, you had to leave. So
I've-
I don't remember. Oh, it's in that book that Jeff's taken from me, the years I was teaching there.
And I've heard some great stories about your work at the school.
Of the
Yeah.
strawberry office.
And the work at the school.
Of the school.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Both
it.
Heather and Cheryl have mentioned.
Mhm.
They loved having you there.
Yeah. I used to have to go down early and get the board written up like the stamps on the wall. The stamps are like BA, and they had to put the last letter. And I had to do a work program, and I had to have it all written up before the inspectors came, and the school started, and then I just had to teach, make sure, like my own girls, and it was so strange.
And from there you went to working at the hotel?
I went up to do their tax, and it took me a little while, so, because I was qualified as the accountant's side, and it just ran out, so I used to cook the counter lunches at times when they were short or getting very busy at the Toolangi Hotel. And
15 pavlovas on a
15
Saturday night.
pavlovas. I used to have for the restaurant for Jack Farmer at home. He used to have a restaurant over, some people don't know where it is now. And then when the hotel got burnt down, Cheryl was working there.
That was 1975.
Yeah. And then I went to work at the strawberry office and helped with the strawberries were just starting. So
This is a strawberry co-op.
it was an association when I started, and then it turned into a co-op. What year was that? I don't know. I got a minute book out there, and I just stayed there for 23 years, so doing all the bookwork, I don't know how long I stayed there. It was 23 years anyway.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, you know.
Gosh.
Well, that's right, I was 66.
Yeah.
So I could work it back later. And that's the last position I did. Like raising money for the tennis courts and things like that. That's when I gave demonstrations of tablet making.
Wonderful. And Cliff, you had an incredibly wide range of jobs as well. That are really very much part of the history of Toolangi. When you married and brought Nancy up, you worked in the mills?
No, we worked on the farm,
Right.
getting the farm started.
You had previously worked on the mills growing up?
No, I worked in the timber,
Yeah.
like falling and pulling in logs with horses.
Which mill?
It's just
Later we worked at for Evans's mill in the bush, and after that we worked for the Murrindindi mill
and then you
in
did
the bush.
That's fine.
No.
Yeah,
But
you can add that.
he did the marginal line out in get to the other side of Castella.
Marginal, which is Marginal Road.
Yeah.
Oh, you did your bulldozing there.
Yes.
So, you got into the bulldozing in your 50s, is that right?
Yes, we.
But before that, can we go to the farming? When you brought Nancy up, you were telling us a little bit about the farming. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, in that time we started a packing shed, and we packed potatoes and carrots and Swedes for Safeway when they first opened their stores. We used to get potatoes and Swedes and stuff from all the farms around, even as far as King Lake, into the packing shed.
Wash them, wash potatoes.
And then we got a bulldozer, and I started doing mountain soil with a fella. That lasted for a few years, and after that I just went contract bulldozing.
And you bulldozed a lot of the house blocks in Castella.
Yes,
where
I did.
the new area was opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably mine.
Yes, I worked on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were also involved in the guest house. Were the two of you involved in the guest house, or was it just your mum?
Oh, yeah, the two of us were for a
Oh,
short time.
you waited on the tables and peeled all the potatoes and all the veggies and
Washed the
did the
dishes.
washing up. And no dishwashers with it.
So going forward from there, what amazed me, Cliff, is that you were still working as the quality assurance officer for the strawberry co-op
Quality control.
right up to lockdown
Yeah,
Yes.
at 93 years of age.
quality.
Yes.
He was a quality controller. That
Right.
was his position.
Can you tell us when you got involved with that?
When I was doing all the orders, we used to come home and have our meal and then go back after our meal, get home about 9:30, and have all the orders packed up for to go the next day. He did it to help me because I couldn't manage it.
And you took on at that stage quality controller. So
Yeah.
how old were you when you did that? Started that?
Oh.
50s?
Yeah, I guess so, because I did it for
What, 40?
probably 20, 30 years.
50s, 50s, 60s, yeah. So you did it right up until you were 93.
That's right.
That's amazing.
He's a person who can't say no.
So, are there any funny or great stories of characters from the Toolangi area?
Oh, many, but I wouldn't like to mention names.
I think that's what Jeff said.
Oh,
You definitely had a funny story that
Yes,
you
I
were
did.
thinking about. Would you like to
I
share?
don't think Heather will mind.
No, go ahead.
One Saturday night we had the dance on, and Charlie Cherry and his wife were coming to the dance, and they had to come across the plank bridge,
Bridge and Cherry Lane.
which
Yeah, Cherry
bounced the car, and the battery fell out on the bridge.
that was Charlie.
So they left the car on the middle of the bridge, and they walked to the hall in the rain,
Pouring rain.
got there soaking wet. That was my funny story.
Definitely.
It wasn't funny.
Not funny at the time, but funny when you look back on it.
All other characters.
What if Jeff and Heather talked about? Heather brought up her Jeff's cousins that had the milk run, and she said they were real characters.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, the Beach Boys.
Yeah, Tom and
Jack.
yeah,
Oh, Jack and Tom.
Tom and Jack Biggs. Yeah.
Mm.
Are there any other real characters you can think of around Toolangi that stood out?
Oh, and Claire was the funniest. Don't you?
Heather's mum. Yes.
She was a wonderful girl, but she was so funny and didn't respect anything that could happen. Every time Cliff went past her house to walk to work, she'd have something broken down, either the washing machine or the whatever, and she'd call him in the men's business before he went. But the funny one was with her car. She was the only one who had a decent car, and she took us out collecting bottles to raise money for the tennis club.
Wonderful.
Yeah, this is how we lived. We had to have money from somewhere, and she was. What do you tell her? Because the car.
The car, the battery wasn't too good. Battery again, and she went to this place,
It was Claire. It was Ted Cherry's.
and she stopped the car, and she had to park it where it would roll start. So she parked it and got out, and she gave it a push to see if it had rolled, and of course it just rolled away down the hill.
Yeah, but the funny part was she was hanging on the back.
Sliding down the track, hanging on the back of it.
Oh gosh.
Her feet was sliding underneath her. That's the funny part of it. It wasn't funny at the time. Anyway, we got our bottles and raised a bit of money. You got a penny or a halfpenny or something, or a cent. That's the one I was thinking of.
Wonderful. Can I ask you what's special about Toolangi for you?
For me? Well, I was appreciated in most places that I worked with, and nobody ever told me I wasn't any good. I was boosted me up a bit.
Definitely.
But, I think everybody thought about the work I was doing, and I was trying to be helpful.
So there was a good community spirit.
Yeah, no one really disliked me coming in and doing the main jobs, but that's the way I was brought up. Scholarships and things, majoring in subjects and stuff. 3 majors is just good feat in those days.
Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah, it was English, maths and algebra. I got honours.
So you went on to, did you do leaving honours?
And
Where did you go to in school?
I went to
Merit certificate?
now that one there, Box Hill. Primary school was grade 6, and then Miss Davis put me through to Monte Albert Central because I didn't have to do an entrance again. An entrance exam because she knew I was nervous. So she recommended me to go to Monte Albert. So that was, I was there for 2 years. And then I thought I might like to commit what do you call it? Cookery and making hats and
Millinery.
domestic. Yeah.
Millinery, yeah.
So I went to Box Hill Girls' School for a little while.
Right.
Didn't like that. So then I went to get another scholarship. I went to Bradshaw's Business College. And he came out quite a lot of times to Mum to let me take her, but she couldn't afford the train fare to Melbourne from Box Hill.
And it's hard for young people to understand nowadays.
Yeah.
The lack of opportunities there were.
So,
And how hard it was to get a secondary education.
He came out heaps and heaps of time to see if Mum would let me come. But anyway, then I got a scholarship to Camberwell Girls Grammar School, and that's where I ended up in matriculation.
Matriculation?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I
great.
was only merit leaving.
Leaving honours.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Leaving honours was matric. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and Mum must have just thrown them out. I never saw any of my report books or anything. She had too many children.
And that's where you learnt the accounting as well.
Oh, well, I forgot about that. I used to get off at, when I was coming. Oh no, the war had just finished and I had to go through manpower to get a job, and they put me into an insurance office. But all the men, I had to run that insurance office because all the men had gone to the war and they only had women. And I was nominated to take on the insurance and send all the insurance business to Sydney to bring it through. And then they'd send the checks back to me to pay the agent. Well, that lasted. But that's when I met you. In that insurance
That's
office.
interesting because you met Cliff, and the reason that you met Cliff was professionally cycling. And he was involved with Box Hill Cycling Club.
Yeah.
And that's why he was down at the dance. Can you tell us a little bit about that background in the professional cycling and what you did? How you got involved in it?
How? I had a mate that was in it and I joined too. And we had a good club.
Camels.
And Nance has talked about you riding from Toolangi on your bike down to Box Hill to see her. You did that?
Yes, I did that, and it was a gravel road from Hillsville to Toolangi in those days.
I didn't realise what he was doing. I thought every boy did that.
Until you went up to Toolangi and saw what it was like.
Yeah.
And that cycling, that was such an enthusiastic sport before the war and just after the war.
He joined the Navy, but he didn't get called up because he was only 19.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, I joined the Navy, but they wouldn't take me out of the timber industry.
I bet your mother was pleased.
And he also worked in the railway yards, unloading the timber, did you?
Yeah.
Hillsville?
At Box Hill.
Box Hill.
That's why I was there.
Right.
And
The logs used to come down by railway truck from Hillsville, and the boss and I used to lift them out of the railway trucks, cart them with horse wagon to the mills all round, even as far back as Ringwood.
Gosh.
And then he used to wave to me while I was on the train going into Melbourne. He'd be in there waving like this.
And this was the 1940s.
This is when he
Middle
worked
of the 1940s.
Yeah. No, I only knew him 3 years before we got married.
And one of the funny stories that you did tell me earlier involved that you went down to Baxter in an MG.
Not me.
And you were about 17.
Yeah, I didn't know him.
And a friend was driving. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because one of the things you talked about, it had a converter on the back of the car so it could be run on charcoal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Had a
because
gas
this was war
producer.
years and you couldn't get petrol.
Yeah, that's right.
So can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Well, we were going out rabbiting, my mate and I and 2 other fellas,
That was
in an MG with a gas producer on the back of it, and we went across the railway line at Baxter, and the train swiped the gas producer off the back of it and took the window out of the back and burst the petrol tank, and
A few of you ended up in hospital.
2 of us ended up in hospital.
Did he have a go? The nurses used to run him around on a trolley, and he had to lay flat on his back for 2 weeks.
Gosh.
And they used to run him into the lift and tickle his feet and all. He enjoyed it.
At 17, that's not bad.
But when he was waving to me on the train, it wasn't only me, it was every girl on the train.
That's not right.
You told me that.
I think he was teasing.
He's boosting himself up. Yeah, well, that's about all else.
And the fellow that had the MG drove it home.
Yes, he drove it back. He put a drum of petrol on the back seat and put a pipe into it and drove it home.
You had to compromise in those days.
You certainly did.
I'm sorry, that was such a funny story. But
That was great. Can I ask a little bit about the guest house? I remember Cheryl saying that in the 1950s you spent 10 very happy years living in the bottom of the guest house that you'd converted to a flat, and then you moved up to the main road. Can you tell us if your grandfather built the guest house? Can you give us an idea of when he built it?
well, it was fairly... I think he must have refurbished it a bit because the stairs that went up to Granny's flat, Granny's house, and our flat were brand new.
Yeah, it would have been in the 30s sometime.
Right.
30s, Cheryl would only be 4, 5.
When he built it.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. So it survived from the early 30s right through to the 60s.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. With your mother still renting out rooms after it ceased to become
well,
a
she
big...
had bathroom and two single rooms upstairs.
Yeah.
It was nice on the veranda there. You know, like she had a veranda right round. I nearly bulldozed it down when I was driving the bulldozer. He didn't tell me how to stop it.
So you drove the bulldozer some of the time?
No, I drove the truck.
Only once.
Well,
But you didn't manage to bulldoze the guest house?
no, I didn't. He managed to get on and stop it for me because he didn't tell me how to stop it. I was only young. I was only not quite 30. You were too. You know, he thought I knew how to drive a bulldozer, and a girl from the city couldn't hardly even drive a scooter, let alone bulldozer.
One of the things that Cheryl talks about, she said, Mum and Dad worked hard to provide everything for us, but sometimes life on the farm in the early days was really tough.
Yeah.
If the potato crop failed, we'd have no money that season. Despite that, they made sure we never missed out on anything. Mum and Dad would make our birthday and Christmas presents.
Mm-hmm.
She remembers one time Dad building 2 little cots and you making the mattresses and blankets.
Yeah.
So, what was life like on the farm in those early days?
Oh, we had fun. Like the cousins used to come up from Burwood, and the boys used to play hide and seek, and you know, with the they were real kids. They weren't grown-up men. They were playing all kids' games, and we used to get the hoses and the water and my kitchen was flooded one night because we were hosing each other. You know, like we played. We weren't like parents, we were playful.
And there were the days long before television
Yeah.
where there was so much more social interaction.
Cheryl used to run home from school and put Tarzan on, and then Jennifer would join her.
This is when you first got television.
No, this is listening through the radio.
Oh, the radio!
Yeah.
I can remember that.
Yeah.
Tarzan,
And
King of the Apes.
yeah, we've got a little baby. And Cheryl used to tease Jennifer and say, "Look out, here he is coming through the window," you know. And she'd go, scream and run up to Grandma, and Grandma would come down. Cheryl, you naughty little devils. No, we had a happy life, didn't we? Oh, we still have.
Yes.
Only I'm a bit of a nuisance with that chair.
Yeah, is there anything that you'd like to add? When you think about the history that you'd like people to know about?
I don't think that. They would want to know any much more because they all used to talk about my ball gowns and dresses because I was always dolled up.
Excellent.
I don't know, always wanting to look nice until I got this, and then really threw me. But Cliff was great through that because I used to sit between his legs when we went to bed and he'd massage.
And this was polio in the 50s?
Yeah.
Right.
Polyneuritis, they wasn't quite well now. I was out of Fairfield for quite a long time.
Oh, the Fairfield Infectious Diseases Hospital.
Looking at the bad patients and people that had polio in lungs.
Iron lungs. It was
Yeah, they had
heartbreaking.
to discharge me because I was getting really depressed because,
Just heartbreaking.
well, they took me down to see what happens in the polio days, or the paralysis as they called it. And all this poor man is 21, I think. And
This is beautiful. Your face is beautifully animated.
no, it isn't. Anyway, all he could do was push his finger across, making a scarf or a mat on a loom. And then he'd have to wait for a nurse to come and push it that
Move
way.
his hand back.
And I couldn't stand that.
No.
Even the polio baths and that.
It was a heartbreaking time for people to go through.
Oh, it's great.
And even more heartbreaking when it was very young children too.
Oh yeah, well I'm not in Boxhill.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mother, we didn't have to go to school. So I got lots of bad things happening through, you know, if I think about it. The Clifton,
Good outcomes though.
the Cliff didn't know anything about those things, did you? You had a happy life in Toolangi.
Yeah.
They didn't have
I
to
guess so,
isolate or
yes.
anything.
Yeah.
That's why he's calm now. He's very calm.
That's wonderful. And Cliff, asking you, is there anything that you'd like to add that we haven't covered when we think about the history? Because we've heard some great things about the mills and about the guest houses. Yeah, about the potato farming, the strawberry co-op, the school, the tennis club. One of the things I noticed with the school, there were a number of Indigenous kids at the school.
At that time.
Yeah, and
At
that must have been.
Charles Town,
It must have been when you were teaching there.
No,
No,
I wasn't there that long.
right.
I've got it in the book that Jeff's got.
I think it's in the early 50s. There's a.
And I can't remember dates very well
And
like that.
they would have been families involved with the mills.
Yeah, yes, they
I
were
think
down
the
at
Nicholsons were
Spags Road somewhere.
Evans Mill.
Yeah, they were
was-
down at Evansville.
Right.
Their father was the engine driver at Evans's mill.
Ah,
Steam engine, that is.
right.
Yeah, they've got a lot of memories, but until you start bringing them to the surface,
That's right.
you're not sure if they're true or not.
That's
You know?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did the cricket club go?
Oh, that's still going for the ages. So
Yes.
Bob Pocket was very good at organising the cricket, wasn't he?
How
And
long
Jane
did
used
it
to do
go? I really can't remember.
Oh, well, Jane used to do the scoring. Well,
Yeah. Yeah, David Pocket had known
yeah, he
More
knew
about
that.
And the things we've covered, is there any other things that strike you about the? I suppose one thing that occurs to me, it made a big difference to you when the highway went through.
Not really. We,
No. That sort of bypassed Toolangi.
yeah,
Right.
yes, it was. We
Up
used
the
to go along David's Road.
So you would head down Chum Creek Road to go to.
No,
Hills.
I was went. But we used to go to. No, we used to just go along Niles Creek Road and get onto the highway at the top of the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
out
there
towards
it is.
King Lake, yeah.
Yeah.
We used to go to below King Lake and yeah.
There wasn't an easy road to go through until the highway went through,
No, the
especially in
Steele's
Henderson.
Creek Road was a terrible road.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was the old Mount Slide.
Yeah,
Gordon's
Mount
Bridge
Slide.
Road extends onto Gordon's
Yeah.
Bridge Road.
You've been down there, have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not too enthusiastically.
No.
Cliff did a lot of bulldozing down there.
Yeah.
And there was one little girl in one of the houses. She used to watch Cliff bulldoze. And one day she said, I love you, Cliff. And then if anyone didn't look as though they had enough money, he wouldn't charge the full price.
Yeah.
So we didn't make much money either. He was
Oh,
a
that's the
bit of
one.
a softie that way.
You've talked about a wonderful community up there,
Yeah.
and you're still involved with the community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, when I was in the strawberry office, they all came, the growers all came in there to get their payouts and things. And I had to work out on quotas and stuff. And Yeah, I got to know the families, and then we always had a Christmas dinner with the different growers. And then all the growers from the Sylvan and Wandering used to be invited. And they used to say to me, I wish you were back in the office again. I was like, shh, you've got a good thing going. They got computers now. I only had computers for a couple of years, didn't I?
No, all bookwork.
Well, I didn't like them. I wouldn't believe what they put on. And even when they bought calculators in, they'd say do the quota, so the other growers worked on quota. And I thought, how can this thing tell me what I know in my head? And one day I'm sitting there and I'm working the quota, and I thought, gee, that's a lot of money going out. And I thought, oh, well, I'll work it out myself with fractions and decimal points. So I did that, and I got exactly the same answer. So
Well done. Well done.
I thought, oh, well.
It was the way we were brought up at school, though. You had to do it in your head.
Yeah, well, that's how it works.
Very much so.
But I can't believe that a little thing like that can tell you the right number that it does.
Now, anything that you'd like to add to the history?
Oh, I can't think of anything really.
You've been such a vibrant part of that whole history of Toolangi.
Anyway,
Yeah, very much so. The social side, the tennis side, the school side, the farming side.
the strawberry side.
Yeah, exactly.
23 years of my life.
But when you say you've only just stopped, when I came and talked to you last week, the week before, and what amazed me is that the two of you are so active all the time. You're out with elderly sits doing the singing, the dancing, the bird scooting.
Yeah, well, even my doctor, or our doctor, rang Cliff when we were dancing the other morning just to tell me the results of the blood. Well, he tells me I'm in perfect health. If this is perfect health, I don't know what rotten health is.
Well, I think you're doing pretty good for 93.
Yeah, I'll be 94 this birthday coming.
Oh, that's amazing.
And Cliff's going to be, they've only got a month and he'll be 94.
Yeah, 16th of June I'll be 95.
Wow. And when you talked about how active you are now, I was absolutely amazed and thought, oh my gosh, that's terrific. You said you dance nearly every night.
Yeah, we dance. We put the surround sound on because these ads on these televisions drive you mad. So Cliff puts the music on, so we do our scooting.
Excellent.
And now I can't do it so well. I sit in a chair down at the hall and do it with my feet.
Excellent. I know you showed me
Did
your
I?
bird scooting routine holding onto the back of the chair the other day.
Yeah. Cliff loves it, so if I
That's
didn't go,
great.
he wouldn't go, so I go.
But that's inspiring. You've really embraced life and you've really enjoyed it and you're still really enjoying it.
Yes.
And that's what life's about.
I meant to tell you too, when Cheryl said when the potatoes didn't pay much or when sequoias or something went rotten, I used to have to give Cheryl a credit note or what do you call it? Anyway, I'll pay you in March.
I owe you.
I owe you, yeah. That didn't click in my phone. I like to have long words. When I spell, I can see,
The words.
I can see it and hear.
That's great.
And my mum when I used to go to school for exams, the end of the year, I'd say, oh, we got a new word on the newspaper or whatever it was. Didn't we get a paper at school?
School paper.
School
I remember
paper,
that.
something.
Yeah. We used to get a school paper every week, or about every
I
week.
think it was a month, wasn't it?
Once
Oh,
a month.
really?
I think it was every week because you
Yeah.
used to put them in a folder.
Yeah, and
That's
then
right.
I had the word at the bottom and you had to learn that word
That's
for
right.
the next time you had a reading session. And Mum used to say, oh, of course you can do it. And she'd write it on my forehead. And she said, no, you won't forget it. I've written it on your brain. I believed it.
That's
So
lovely.
Cheryl had to have an IOU for her birthday till March, and then we got some money in for the potatoes. But she's been through a lot, you know.
Yeah. But they've been through growing up in a wonderful family and a wonderful community.
Yeah.
And all that warmth and support and all
Yeah.
those good things that they passed down to all the generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't want two better kids to eat their main meal at night because we used to promise them a game of Ludo.
Yeah.
And if you ate all your meal, you could be playing at Ludo as soon as we'd cleaned up. And every night, didn't we, Cliff? Used to
Yep.
stacks of letters and
Yeah.
This has been a fantastic interview. I've loved it. Absolutely loved it. And you've told oncoming generations for Toolangi of a lot of insight into the things that have happened over those years.
Yes. Yeah,
A lot of change.
Yeah, a lot of things changed in my mum's. You know, when her father could turn into a circus and things like that. You know,
It's amazing.
but she didn't keep the things that I keep.
Yeah.
Like, she'd just throw them out. All the report books and things, you know. I'd love to have been able to read one.
Well, I love some of the things that you have saved. Well, one of the things there is the ticket for the switch on ball.
Oh, Cliff would have
That's
shown
incredible that you've got that. That's great. And that's 1963 when electricity
Yeah.
first came to Toolangi.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have known if I hadn't read the card.
Yeah.
But no, those sort of things sort of slip your mind a bit, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
as
Thank
long
you.
as you could keep. Well, I had an assessing anyway, and they gave me good marks for that. I told you, didn't I?
Yeah.
I got 26 out of 30 for counting backwards and count up by 7, 7, 14, 21,
Well, I don't think
20.
President Trump managed that.
Yeah. No, but you were told to add up, go as far as you can with a 7. Like, I could do it. Like 7, 14, 21, 28, 3, 5, 6, 5, 12, 19.
And it helps when you've taught it to kids too.
Oh, that's right. With their STEM.
Definitely.
Oh, well.
I'd like to thank you because it's a wonderful story.
Is it?
It is.
Oh, I've just written a story about the new baby.
Oh, there you go. And the beautiful new baby's up here.
Yeah.
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 This is your great-grandchild.
Great.
Great-great-grandchild.
Yeah, well, he was
Cheryl's great.
special because he made the 5th generation.
So in those days you were heading up to Eildon on
Yes.
holidays and camping up there in tents and then a
Yeah.
caravan.
Yes, and we went looking for houseboats and we had bought the one we still got. And now it doesn't belong to us because we sold it to the kids. As soon as they knew we were going to sell it, they all wanted it because they all do
Wonderful.
360s and all that thing now. And I can't bear watching them. But I was just scared.
Well, it's part of your history too.
Cliff
Because
finished.
you lived in this rural community and then also part of your life as it changed after the war years, coming into the 50s, coming into the 60s, it changed and into the 70s and later you started travelling overseas then, you started to go to Bali.
Every 16 years in a row.
You went to Bali for 16 years with family.
Was it 14 or 16?
Oh,
With friends, all the tennis club friends.
So lots of people from up at Toolangi.
Yes.
Yeah.
around about 20 of us.
Wonderful.
every year.
Yeah. We were only looking at some the other day, some photos, and that's little Sue used to give us a massage. Those little, you know, and they used to call me Nancy Reagan. Or who else did they call me? Nancy Reagan and anyway, they called and Len Cosson. Did you want to Cossons up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And so you travelled quite a bit around Indonesia when you
Yeah,
went up there.
every
over
year
all
we
the
had-
islands. We went over most of the islands.
Oh yes.
Wonderful.
I went up the helicopter over there.
I can really see your sense of adventure. And then you started travelling further overseas.
Oh, we went on Cheryl's honeymoon. Don't tell Tony.
No.
She asked us to go, so
No, I was amazed to read that.
Hmm.
So you went to Europe and then you went over there with them on their honeymoon, then you split up and you went and did your own thing over there.
we left them in Rome and we went across to England and we didn't go away long. Oh yes, we went on my 80th birthday. We went to one of the islands. Yeah, I've been over there. But
Wonderful.
I've only just stopped